Hey everybody, this is Kyle, aka Vulcan Wolverine. It's Sunday morning, it's Saturday night, Sunday morning. It's Saturday night. It's like 1:30 a.m. in the morning, so it's really Sunday morning. June the 20th, 2021. I couldn't sleep. I'm usually up like this late. This is usually kind of my schedule. I don't know. It's all up in the air. And I was gonna kind of drop it like on the last video talking about Arachnonixon, the incident that was completely created with directed energy weapons torture and just putting so much pressure and making somebody feel like they were dying, and then making sure that the program, the remote weapons, made it seem, feel, just everything that probably Arachnonixon was feeling, the beams coming from his neighbors, right? The neighbors that moved in a few months earlier. And I just wanted to talk about it some more and kind of get some stuff out. Um, first off, this I'm not really. I guess I am a little bit prepared, but I just kind of want to talk about it because, first of all, Kalamazoo County Jail, 1500 Lamont Avenue, Kalamazoo, Michigan 49007. I'm going to put this in the description. His name is William Wolf. Um, they're calling him William Robert Wolf in the mainstream. So I guess this is the address, and then that's his name. So you can send him letters, encouragement, food. I'm sure he needs to be lifted up right now. And, obviously, I don't know. Brock was saying, don't turn him into a martyr. And that's definitely, I don't think that's going to happen, with targeted individuals going through this, because it doesn't help us, right? It doesn't help us. It hurts us a lot. This hurts us a lot. And I kind of wanted to say, I'll go. I don't know. Like I was thinking about making this video, and I was like, well, I should stop with that first one because I'm not sure what the, not legality, but how this is gonna, the optics that my attackers and everyone are gonna try and put on me, right, for my gang stalking. And I definitely, this is a fresh wound. For me, somebody in my live stream doing this, that was in my live streams a while back, um, it's like a fresh wound. So I was like, well, I should just wait. Should wait till so I'm not as so emotional. It's like the first day crying, just in shock, and then the second day, I don't know if my attackers are doing something too, but I'm just like a rock. I'm just like no emotion, just like what happened. I guess it's a continuation of shock. Um, and I don't know. I don't know. Some people like told me don't blame yourself and stuff like that. I don't blame myself. The initial shock, you just go through things. I guess when you have a brain like mine of like, oh, I could have done this, I could have done this, I could have done this. If my stupid attackers weren't microwaving me, well, if they weren't microwaving any of us, none of this would happen. But none of this would have happened. But it's like if I would have had a little bit more focus, and I'll tell you, I don't even want to say it, but if I would have personally talked to William, like off of that live stream when he said he was having trouble, and we would have emailed back and forth, and I would have talked to him personally, I guarantee you he would not have done this because I would have just not even if he would have said something about this to me, like but the way that I talk about this, I'm very logical, and I could have gone through this story, right? If me and him were talking, okay, and I'll get off of that. I know it's not my fault, but you just go through those things in the initial shock, right? And I'm going to let those things go. It happened. But now, here we are with this situation happening. And I don't want to say this the wrong way, but now's the time to learn, right? Uh, Even though these are horrific acts that you know, obviously we shouldn't do, we can learn something from it, right? Because what do you think? What do you think William felt when he shot those two people and he walked into that apartment, or while he was shooting them, and he saw no weapons? Do you think that was maybe the worst feeling that anyone could ever feel in their life, when they're certain that those people next door were aiming weapons at them? They do that, they don't find weapons. Well, let me tell you how horrible it is. I haven't experienced it, right? But I didn't have any weapons, and this was many years ago. But at the apartment complex where my overt targeting started, in the two apartments, the first apartment was this older guy by me, and it felt like he would just hold the um um William said that he felt like he was being tracked and mimicked through the apartment. Now, what he meant was that they were following him through the apartment with weapons and hitting him. Like they would move where he would move in the apartment and they would hit him with weapons. That's what he meant. I know that because I experienced it in this apartment complex that I got out of eventually, right? The first place where the overt targeting started, high pitched sound. I would leave the apartment, I would come back, and I would try and take a bath, and I would hear I still don't know if it was the guy or if it was remote, right? But it would feel like the guy next door to me was walking over and through his bathroom, messing with stuff in his bathroom, and then putting an emitter right behind my head, and it felt like my nerves and my spine were opening up because it hurt so bad. And I just got out of there, right? And then when I requested to move to the next place, I moved to the next apartment. It sounded like three young people above me, and they would follow me above me if I'd go take a bath or any room, and it would sound like they had equipment and they were following me around and just keeping it on my face, right? Keeping the stream of energy on my face. And I think that was remote. I think that this is what I think. I think it gets so complicated that I think they may get some of these people in apartments near you to do stuff like that, where they're tracking you along the apartment, but then the remote people are hitting you with the weapons, so you think that the people that are in the apartment. You see how complicated it can get. But my point to that is the point to that is when that was happening to me in the apartment that I eventually left, it sounded like the three younger people above me, and they were it felt and sounded like I could hear them talking above me, and that they were talking about aiming the weapon down at my head, and this happened for months and months and months and months. And I had scenarios, and I had no weapons or anything like that, but I ran through scenarios in my head. I need to go kick open the door upstairs, and I need to grab those weapons, right? I need to kick open the door, and if I have to fight some of them, whatever. I didn't have any weapons or anything like that, so thank God. But you know, and I never did it because this is what I thought. I thought I could go up there and I could kick open that door, and there could be no weapons, right? So that's why we have to be really careful, guys. This stuff you can perceive it as if it's coming right from your neighbors, and it's not like it's a judge. I do judge William for doing what he did. It was a bad move. It was a bad move. It ended two gang stalkers' lives or innocent people's lives who, you know, both are innocent and dumb, right? Not the innocent people who have nothing to do with this, but even if they're gang stalkers, they don't deserve to die because they don't know anything, you know. So I think about that, and I think about how I was running through that scenario, but I thought about that. I said, what if I kick in that door and I punch some guy in the face or something, and there ain't no weapons in there, right? Then what do I do? And we can look at this situation, and we can see any targeted individuals out there where you're like, I know my neighbor's doing it to me, and all I got to do is go kick open their door, and I got me some weapons. Let's look at the situation, right? Let's look at this situation, and it's an awful thing what he probably experienced, you know, thinking he's defending his life, right? Thinking these people because I can tell you probably the type of pain he was going through at the time was high pitched ringing in the ears. He felt like his brain he wasn't even in control of it. His body probably hurt and was sore. He felt like he was dying. Even if he may have not have died from that torture, the intense torture makes your body feel like it's dying because all your pain sensors are ratcheted up, right? And so he's probably sitting there and just like, I'm gonna do, I'm gonna defend my life. That's what was in his head. And let me tell you, because I talked to him in live streams, he is not a cold-blooded killer. What that means is he was trying to defend his life. Now, did he defend his life against the right people? No, he did not. Should that be brought up into court when temporary insanity is brought up into court? Temporary insanity, which is most of the times BS in most cases, but now you got somebody being hit with directed energy weapons that's being tricked into thinking his neighbors are doing it. I'd say that's grounds for consistent insanity, not just temporary insanity. And it needs to be argued in courts. Like, I know this is just me saying it on this YouTube video, but we need to have lawyers to start arguing directed energy weapon torture in courts. These kind of situation, every situation with these things. But let me show you a couple of things. We'll go through a couple of things, but here's another thing of why. I mean, in like, okay, so most of y'all that I'm saying this is why we don't do this, most of you are like, yeah, we know this is going to happen. Some of you may not. You may not know. You may think that if you get your attackers, the people you think are attackers, and even if you're right, that it's all going to come out. You're going to get the weapons right, and they're going to say these people were hitting them with directed energy weapons. Even if something like this happens, right? But no. William probably told the police that he was being hit by directed energy weapons and that he thought these people were doing it. But all they said to the mainstream news and all that was released from the courts were they were making too much noise and they were making it too hard for him to sleep. So it looks like the courts are covering up anything about directed energy weapons in these cases anyway. So while these military government workers and government workers are given medical treatment and monetary assistance, if the Senate Intelligence Committee would have written up legislation to help American citizens, William wouldn't have done what he did, because William would have felt hope, because America would have been helping the citizens who were being tortured. But he saw no end in sight. He saw no end in sight, and he saw that they were just moving new people, and he thought that these people were hitting him. Not condoning his actions, even if those people were hitting him with weapons, which they weren't, because we found that out now. This was not covered up by the police or anything. If those people were using weapons on William, William would have grabbed them when he went in there. And so, seeing no weapons, I don't even know now. I can conjecture that William probably told the police he was being hit by directed energy weapons, but since he went in there and did that and then saw no weapons, maybe he backed up and just told the police that they were making too much noise and stuff because he knew he could prove no weapons. So maybe he didn't even say anything about directed energy weapons. I don't know. I would assume that he did, and that they're saying, because let's watch a couple of this. Let's watch a couple of these.
Married couple dead after neighbors tell us the tenants across the hall in their apartment complex shot them both this morning.
Our Angela McCall spoke to the...
I wonder if y'all can hear me. Oh, I don't have my headphones on. Let me get my headphones on, guys. I just want to show y'all how it's being covered up. How these things for us aren't they not only don't work, it works in a negative way, right? Because all that they're gonna say, if you do something horrible and then you say I was being hit with directed energy weapons, they're gonna say some simple thing that they can put a one-liner on a mainstream news story, and then they're gonna say And the police say it has a lot to do with mental illness. Anything about directed energy weapons, anything about like torture from those, they're not going to specifically say anything like that in the news reports. People are going to have to dig. It's going to have to become a big case. So, I hope that William just says everything, like he's got nothing to lose, and he should just say everything about everything that he was experiencing, and maybe somebody in there would advocate or help. I doubt it. I think that somebody is going to have to put like lawyers in these courtrooms that are arguing, my client has been hit by directed energy weapons, he's been tortured, he thought those people were doing it. It's way bigger than temporary insanity. Like, because William should not get, like, I'm not condoning murder, right? I'm not doing that here, but I'm saying William should not get a regular murder sentence for what was happening, because it's a way bigger deal than in any of those BS cases where they say that people had temporary insanity from like passion or blah blah blah. You're being tortured by directed energy weapons. The contractors that were hitting him were making sure he sensed everything coming from his neighbors, and it synchronized up with the things that they were doing in their apartment, right? Like, I can tell you that for certain. I can tell because I've experienced that for certain. But let's watch this real quick.
The former property manager about why she feels it could have been prevented.
This is also another big part of a lie. I guess the property owner manager was trying to cover her ass too. But in live streams a long time ago, when he said that he was going to his apartment manager, he said he went 1,000,000 times. He went to request a transfer over and over and over again, and said it was a big problem. And she just goes, "Oh yeah, he came in one time, and then I sent it up, and they said he couldn't do it." She probably wouldn't do it for him. It's covering up a lot of stuff.
Police haven't confirmed exactly who they have in custody, but multiple people here at this apartment complex at Gales Village have told us that it was a man that lived inside of this building here behind me who shot and killed two of his neighbors, a married couple. Neighbors say that they heard 3 gunshots and then just silence. This is the kind of apartment complex where a lot of folks keep to themselves. Former resident manager Tara Brooks knew most of them and had even helped the couple move in who was shot and killed.
Never had any issues with them, never any problems, any phone calls.
The husband was 49, his wife 30 years old. Together, Tara says she only ever received 1 complaint from their neighbor next to them for harassment.
I was like, okay, well, can you elaborate a little?
See, she says 1 complaint. And I remember him saying that he went to her day after day after day after day, making several complaints. But they don't want to say that. They don't want to say that he came to them many, many times and said, "You need to move me from this apartment because they are harassing me on several occasions." Just one time, right? They got to change it so it doesn't look like they were incompetent, right? But she's not incompetent. She's just unequipped. Right? She's inequipped to deal with the situation and what was happening. And that's what's supposed to happen. Communities are supposed to be very, not ill-equipped, but unequipped to deal with somebody being tortured by directed energy. And then they want it to be even worse because they want to sensorily and synchronistically, or whatever you want to call it, make it feel exactly like your neighbors are doing. It doesn't do that with mine anymore because I moved to so many places, right? But the first like 4 places that I moved to, they wanted me to think it was the person right next to me, and they could make it feel like that with the remote weapons. We need to learn from this. This is a horrible situation. We're gonna move on. We're gonna have victories. We're gonna help William as much as we can. And we're not gonna, obviously we're not gonna turn him into a martyr, but I feel like the least we can do from this situation is learn from it, right? Is learn from it so nobody else does this, because you're gonna go and if you break into a place, I mean, I don't know, like if you're not killing anybody, never mind. Just we gotta push the limits, but without murder. You know what I'm saying? And if this happens this should not happen ever again, because you'll go in there, there will be no weapons. There will be no weapons there, but you will be sure that you were hit by weapons from there. It's what I've been saying for like a couple of years, and I think some of you guys are like, maybe you think I don't know, maybe you think I'm an agent, and I'm like trying to steer you away from knowing that it's your neighbors hitting you. I'm not. Like I'm a real targeted individual. I thought it was my neighbors for a long time. Thank goodness that I just kind of, moved and got away from it, right? Because you can't this is what happens. It's not like in a movie where you take your life back and you get the bad guys. The bad guys are going to look like the good guys, and the good guys are going to look like the bad guys in the real world. The optics of this and the optics of how we do it are so important. Are so important, and we can do it. And we can do like I said, we can do some challenging, risky things. I've got one in mind that I may say on this video or another video. It has nothing to do with anybody getting hurt. We might go. It's stuff that's risky, but it's not gonna hurt anybody, right?
A little bit more, and he said that he felt like they were following him around the apartment, like mimicking what he was doing.
See, that what he meant was, and I don't know what he told her, but I've had these situations at my apartment complexes at the beginning where you don't want to say like because you don't know what. Well, he should have known what he was being hit with, and I think he did. At the time that it was happening to me, I didn't know what I was being hit with, and I just said I'm being harassed. Like I'm being harassed by my neighbors. They're making a lot of noise, right? So that's kind of what I said when I had to talk to somebody who knew nothing about directed energy weapons. I was like, yeah, they're making a lot of noise. I can't sleep. They're keeping me awake. Anything but like, oh, I'm being fired upon by weapons, right? Because then it's like they're not gonna understand that. But I was experiencing that same thing where they would move in the apartment where I was and then keep the weapons, and it would seem like they were keeping the weapons aimed on me, right? It could have been remote, it could have been a psyop, but I'm very, very sure that that's what he was experiencing. Common sense wise, right? Because he did not go over there and do that because they were making some noise, and he thought those neighbors were just making some regular noise. He didn't do that for that. He thought that they were hitting him with weapons. That's why he did that. And I'm sure he told somebody. If he didn't tell her and he didn't tell anybody when it happened, I'm sure he told the cops, because I'm sure he was just like, this is over now, and I'll just tell them everything. But then they say like, oh, he said his neighbors were being too loud. Oh, he said he couldn't get sleep. Oh, and we think there are some mental issues involved, right? There's some mental illness involved. When they say we think there's some mental illness involved, that's all the directed energy weapon attack stuff and the torture stuff that he was telling them. They put it into that generic, we're not going to say anything about that to the public, especially with these big things coming out about remote microwave attacks and directed energy weapon attacks. We don't want the public to put two and two together that false flags are being created, and this was a false flag. This was a false flag. People really died in this false flag, and a young man is now in jail for maybe the rest of his life. I think that threatening like me sounding cold or anything like that. There need to be lawyers to do something even better than the temporary insanity, because any targeted individual that's getting microwaved to death feels like they're dying. If they know for sure, right? And I'm not saying that it's happening, but when you sense these attacks, a lot of targeted individuals, and me too, in some of the circumstances with my neighbor, I knew it was them because the way it felt, the direction it was coming, how it sounded, and everything like that. Now, as I moved around and got out of there, I stopped always relying just on my senses, right? Started wondering how it was being done and how it could feel the same exact way everywhere I went, right? So we got to do some of those creative things to say, okay, well, we can't just trust the senses about how the weapons are hitting us. But yeah.
But the apartments are butted back to back, so maybe if they were below you, they could do that, but I don't think they can do that, butted up like that.
A few days later, Tara says he came in with a request to transfer to one of the vacant units in a different building.
Came in with it, and so I filled out the form and I sent it up, and it was just automatically denied.
It was a
I'd like to say something. She said the apartments are butted up and they couldn't do any of the mimic stuff or follow them around. With surveillance equipment, somebody could, right? However, right, using our common sense, we know that those people weren't doing that, because if he would have done what he did and gone into the apartment, he would have gotten the equipment, right? They would have had equipment for him to grab and then show the cops. I'm sure that was part of his goal. I'm not 100% sure, maybe not, but when I had those scenarios running through my head that without weapons, maybe kicking in a door, it was like 10 years ago, or it was like 2012 or something like that. And I know it was like just a couple nights. What was I gonna say? But I had that scenario, and if I would have gotten in, I would have gotten the weapon. That was my main goal, was to grab the weapons, right? Was to grab the weapons. In like William not being a cold-blooded murderer, and I know this because I talked to him. That's why I know I can take these things and I can say he felt like he was being killed and he was in a desperate situation and he wanted to get the people that killed him, right? But he was being hit by directed energy weapons. So we play this game in our society where it's like, well, he felt like he was being murdered by somebody, but he's mentally ill because directed energies. What? No. American citizens and citizens in other countries are being tortured by directed energy weapons, and one of the biggest protocols in all of it is to make these people, survivors of directed energy, think that it's their neighbors too, because these weapons can mess with the perceptions, especially if they're doing microwave signals to the brain and the nervous system, and they can like kind of make you feel an angle of getting hit. They can make you hear the high-pitched sound directionally straight from your neighbors, or how they're moving through their place, or make the V2K noises of them moving through their place, and the directional high-pitched noise directed energy stuff, right? So they can trick the senses on that.
choice out of Tara's hands that unfolded.
Just the thought that maybe if I would have threw a little bit more of a fit and pushed a little bit harder, that it could have changed things, but at the same time, it could have just been different variables.
I think that I think she rejected it. Like, I don't think she sent it up anywhere, and I think she just said, no, you just need to stay there. Because, like, I had to really fight hard to get my apartment manager to move me to another apartment. Like, I had to get my parents in there. I had to cause a huge fuss. Like, just one little application, she's like, nah, we're not doing that. Because it's a lot of trouble for them they want to keep those for certain people and blah, 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 So, I'm conjecturing, but I would think that she didn't try at all. Like, she herself said no. But when push comes to shove and these horrible situations happen, that's when everybody tries to cover their asses. That's when everybody tries to cover their asses, right? We don't live in a society anymore where we try and stop these things. You see, we want them to happen, and then everybody covers their asses and says they don't know what's happening. Mental illness. Dartboard, mental illness, dartboard, mental hysteria, mass hysteria, dartboard, guns, dartboard, just whatever we can blame that's a political thing that we can use, right? But directed energy weapons, no, that's not political. That's actually, if somebody talks about that, it's going to lose money for a bunch of corporations, the corporations of death, and it's going to cause a lot of trouble for your political career if you talk about it, So let's not deal with any situations before they happen. Let's all just, after they happen, just cover our asses, right? Only in America. Like, only in America. No, it's everywhere else, too. It's a funny saying.
It's why she was just as surprised when she woke up to 4 missed calls from tenants before 7 a.m. on Thursday.
Oh, I had no idea what was going on. I didn't think that it could ever escalate like that with him. I mean, I may just be a bad judge of character, but he seemed quiet and, you know, kept to himself, but it didn't seem like he was in.
I think she's telling the truth on that. Like, yeah. I mean, because that's what I got from him, too. The last person that would ever do it just didn't get that feeling from, you know, what I thought was, but you can't do that with mind control. When you know somebody's being mind controlled, you can't just say, well, I'm looking at Arachnonixon. He seems like a guy kind of like me that when push comes to shove, he's going to figure out some kind of creative solution to get out of there, right? To get out of there, to start anew, to just leave that, because, like, screw the people that you think are attacking you, whether they're attacking you or not. You know, now we know they're not. Now we knew maybe they were doing gang signs, but that's not why William did what he did, because he thought they were only gang stalking him. It's not. It's not. I forgot what I was saying. My attackers are like erasing my mind and my memory. My memory, not my mind, not my complete mind. But I forgot what I was saying. I was saying, yeah, but she's right about that, because I didn't suspect anything like that. He didn't seem like just a weak guy or anything. You know, he seemed like he had a very smart head on his shoulders. You know, but with remote neural manipulation, while they're cooking you, while you feel like you're being cooked, and you're in a state of panic and stress that's completely artificially induced, that you have no control over, and you've got to kind of just go through it however long your attackers are going to work your brain, or you got to get Dave Case CD or other stuff on you, you know, defenses on you to kind of stop it. But if not, if you don't have those defenses, then it's like you're just going through it until your attackers decide to kind of turn it down for a little while and turn it back up, or maybe they decide to not turn it back down for that week or that month or that, you know, year. And so, you know, he's going through that pain, the stress, and everything, and then who knows what they're putting in his head with remote neural manipulation, right? Get your gun. Those people, because they're trying to make his attackers, his contractors, were trying to make him think it was his neighbors hitting him. So they obviously were remote neural manipulating him and keeping that going, that your neighbors are hitting you, your neighbors are hitting you, your neighbors are hitting you, right? And then where were they when because like, you know, he left social media a long time before this happened. So there's a suspicion that maybe he planned this. So where in the hell were his surveillance people that were surveilling him and doing the targeting to him to cool the brakes? I'll tell you, they were right there attacking him and targeting harder and making him think that it was his neighbors, doing it more and more because that's what they want it to happen. Everybody who's not a targeted individual, I'm preaching to the choir, this is what this program wants to happen. It attacks people, remotely microwaves them, remote neural manipulates them, makes it feel as if it is directly coming from the neighbors in many, many protocols to get something like this to happen. And they don't stop it. Contractors that surveil it, that were remote neural monitoring William's brain in his home and everything, they knew what was going on, and they lifted not a finger to stop it, because this is what they were doing. This was the mission. This was the goal. You see? So, like, people who aren't targeted individuals, you need to wake up fast. They're murdering people. They're torturing people, and then a very small percentage are taking the law into their own hands and doing things that are not going to work at all, you know. But we see this story, right? We know who Arachnonixon was, but look how little they're saying. None, nothing, nada about directed injury. How many news stories do we have that are like, oh, this person shot this person because they were bothering him in their apartment complex? And they don't say anything about directed energy weapons, right? We see it with this because we know for certain what happened in this situation.
That kind of state.
Tara still lives here at Galesburg Village. She lives in a designated unit for employees specifically, but because she recently left this job, she is preparing to move on and live somewhere else now that she has a new job. Of course, this has been hard for not only her, but many other tenants here. And she says it's been especially tough because she did come to make a difference here in this community. And of course, this tragedy unfolded here on Thursday. Reporting in
I don't want to say anything too dangerous, but I think some of these apartment managers, if there is a target that comes in and needs to be placed somewhere, I think they might work with DHS fusion centers, and if that person did come ask to get switched from a place, they would maybe participate more with DHS fusion centers if DHS fusion centers or the contractor said, no, you can't move this person. So she probably does know more than she's saying. Like the you know, that it could be she could have they could have maybe not even come and spoken to her, but I know that my homeowners association gang stalks the hell out of me. Like, so the sheriff's department or whoever runs it in my area, or DHS fusion, probably DHS fusion center through the sheriff's department. The sheriff's department comes and talks to him. They gang stalk the hell out of me. I ain't gonna hurt anybody, but this is going on, right? See, you see where they got me right now? Just right now, just for the moment, I'm like walking on eggshells because I'm talking about how this targeting affects me, and I'm talking about how like homeowners associations and managers are, oh no, 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 because everybody's just saying William was crazy, you know. But see, I don't care. I don't care because this is going to be the future if we don't step up. It's going to be a bunch of bloody situations where they're nowhere near what the mainstream media says that they are, and then everybody's going to be like, "That's too dark for me. I don't want it." You know what I'm saying? And if we all like it's going to be so dark anyway. Even if we all stand up and speak out, right? I kind of wanted to show another one right here about what they said. You know, they said that he just wanted to get some sleep. See, check this out. Okay, let's watch the thing. I think we've already watched this video. Okay, see, investigators said mental health issues might have played a role in the two killings. That's everything that William told him about directed energy weapons. That's that statement. But when he said, you know, they're mimicking me through the apartment, they took out things that he said that they could put into a mainstream news article or tell the public to make him sound crazy, to make the story sound like, oh my God, this guy's just mentally ill. And then anything that he told them about directed energy weapon torture or gang stalking, stuff that they knew about, stuff that they knew that was happening. Anything he told about that. And they didn't request bond, which is very, very weird. It's very, very weird. But the only things they said is that his neighbors were mimicking him across the wall, which I'm sure that like directed when he went to go speak to, you know, his manager, he probably said like non-ionizing microwave radiation. It's like they're moving across the wall with weapons or something like that. Maybe she was spoken to and told not to talk about that, right? You see, we got a little problem for this big program right here, is that all these incidents like this are mashing up with all the mainstream news that's coming out about remote microwave attacks. And they've really, really, really got to make us look real crazy to keep that going, right? So that we don't connect with that, this has to happen, right? Because if this happens, then people on an emotional level, they see this and they say, no, those people are mentally ill. They're not being hit with directed energy weapons. They're killers. Even though that's what's going on. They're being hit. People are being hit with directed energy weapons. They're going, I got to protect my life. Like, I feel like I'm dying. I feel like my brain might not be, like, I feel like I could have a heart attack tonight. It feels like it's coming directly from my neighbors, and then they do something. But instead of like fixing that, right? Because this whole thing was, all these programs were created to not fix stuff, but to break America and other countries that they're going on in, and it will be ignored. They want more of these incidents happening so that they can say, yeah, those normal citizens who are saying they're being hit by directed energy weapons, you see, they're killers. We got to take care of these governmental workers. They're behaving. We know they're not killers or anything, but it's not. I mean, I'm not saying it's fair. Like, I'm not saying it's fair. In all, in any case like this, the torture is going on for years and years and years, way longer than any of these governmental workers have ever experienced a microwave making them a little bit dizzy. Sorry, sorry. I know that some of them are experiencing a lot of pain, but I am pretty bitter about that. I am pretty bitter about that. And we're definitely gonna like see this through. You know what I'm saying? And we've got to do, like, let me give you guys a little. This is just a theoretical example of something risky, something kind of cool. Maybe we could do something kind of maybe bad. I don't know. It's not illegal. It's not illegal, right? But just take this idea and see what I'm saying, right? Because this should never happen. This was the wrong thing. He should have done anything else to get himself to the next chapter, right? And then dealt with it from there. If you're in this bad of a spot, which I've been in these bad spots. I've never had weapons, and I've always been like, maybe I'll kick in a door and grab some weapons, and that's the furthest it's gone. And then I didn't even do that. I just left, because I was like, I'm going to get in trouble, and there may not be any weapons in there. But check out this idea. So 50 to 100 of us petition Russian intelligence, or we find a specific organization within Russia that would be interested in us getting tortured by microwave weapons, right? 50 to 100 American citizens that are getting extremely bad remote neural manipulation, extremely bad directed energy weapon attacks, and we petition them to give us money and medical help if we go live in Russia, and we give them all the information we have. You see what I'm saying? It's inappropriate. It's way too challenging. We might be called if I did that with a group of people, like, we would maybe be called treasonous, right? Against America. We're giving Russia secrets, but we're innocent Americans being tortured by our own country, right? So you see, it's a situation where we can go balls to the wall. We can do some risky stuff. And that's not the only idea, right? Many other ideas. We've got to do stuff like that. Because we got to do stuff where nobody gets hurt. Where there's a risk or something, that's fine. I'm all up for that. But nobody can get hurt, because the optics on it are, we can't help them. They need to be, the governmental workers will help them with the remote microwave attacks, but maybe some of these remote microwaves need to be used, because we're seeing all these shootings going on. People don't understand. They don't understand the shooting was caused by the directed energy weapon torture. You see what I'm saying, guys? That's how it works. That's how it works. It's insane. It's insanity. It's insanity. And I know that it's like probably when William was being tortured to death, and he's just like, I just want this to end. And I'm sure it's them. And his mind was not clear or anywhere near it if he was going through the type of remote neural manipulation and the type of pain that my body goes through. I can tell you his mind wasn't clear. And then they're going to use this, yeah, somebody told me yesterday, they were like, yeah, they're doing this to us to, take away guns. They're doing this to us for many, many different angles. One of them, which is to take away guns. They're doing many, many different things to other groups at many different angles to take away guns too. We're being used for that, as are many other groups, right? So I kind of just wanted to talk about it and get a few more things just kind of off my chest, and like, let's definitely send him, some letters of encouragement that it's not over, that he can, get through this and understand, what he did was a huge, awful. It was an evil thing that he did, but it wasn't from a place of evil, because he's not an evil guy. And when stuff gets that complicated, it needs to be brought into court. When somebody's being murdered and they're not an evil, cold-blooded murderer, and they would just go to work and they would be responsible, but then they end up killing two people because they thought that they were shooting weapons at them that they were really being hit with. William was really being hit with microwave weapons. Then we've got a society where they're just doing false flags. They've destroyed. William was a victim in this, and those two people were a victim in this. He was also a perpetrator in this, but he was also a victim, right? Him going through the torture and all that stuff, he was a victim of this situation. And he did something horrible, not out of cold-blooded murder or even revenge. Not even revenge, but wanting it to stop. I know it's them, and then doing that, and it being an awful, way bigger than a mistake, right? So it must be spoken and it must be said, and I guarantee you, you can see the let's see what they said from that they got from the court. Maybe it was on the other one. Hold on, let me go to this other article. Maybe this was the one where it said the court said that he just said his neighbors were being too loud, and then they kept saying a lot of stuff about well, they think it has to do with mental illness issues, right? And so what I take away from that, because I know at that point, after all that, Arachnonixon probably just laid it out for them what had been happening, right? And so if they're not going to say that, and I think, I don't know why they wouldn't bring it up with it being in the mainstream, but I think that they try and not bring it up initially. His lawyer needs to bring it up. I hope he got I don't know. I don't know what kind of lawyer he got, but I'm very scared that it's not a good enough lawyer. Because a good enough lawyer, like this lawyer, is just going to be like, oh yeah, blah blah, he did it, and he's probably not even going to go for the mental illness plea. Like, he needs to go for at least either temporary insanity, mental illness. He needs to go for this guy. Like, he needs to let Williams say exactly what was happening, because it will be considered mental illness by the court. They will not let it in as something that was actually happening, and they need to use it for all they have to get him a reduced sentence. Not saying what he did was right, but I guarantee you he felt like he was being murdered, and he felt like those people next to him were murdering him. I wish that he would have listened to me, because I always say they can make it seem like that. I think people get like they think that I'm trying to trick them or something like that. I'm not. I'm not. I don't want any of this kind of stuff to happen. And I'm still real devastated about it. But then today, I can't enjoy anything else right now. I think because of this, and just because of my remote neural manipulation, I was like, well, let's just go through it. The best thing to do, and I think that maybe William would want is, for no other targeted individuals to do this, to not do this, and then go into you're in a house that you just ended your life, right? And there's nothing in there, and you're not any closer. As a matter of fact, you're in jail forever. And you can't use defenses. We can't. What if something good happens in a year, and then it's like, I hate thinking those things. It was this one thing about what came from the courts. Okay, yeah, here it is. A Galesburg man told deputies he shot and killed a couple living in the next door apartment because they prevented him from sleeping by being loud. according to newly obtained court records. You think that's all he said? I think that he mentioned all the directed energy weapon stuff. He mentioned the targeting program. He mentioned gang stalking and all those things. Because those things are protected under national security, even when they create these types of situations, the court can't even mention them. Even if it's happening to somebody, they don't mention them, right? The Nicholas Cruz, and I'm not Nicholas Cruz case, they didn't mention directed energy weapons or V2K, even though he mentioned them in his psychological evaluations many times, because it's national security, right? So the reason that these events are happening, right, and this one's really close to home, they're covering that up with national security. You see where national security is right now? It's covering up false flag murders, tortures of innocent young men who are not cold-blooded murderers. Who I guarantee you, I guarantee you, I'm not just saying this, that if Arachnonixon was not tortured or targeted, he would have a good job, he'd have a family, there'd be no problems from him. As a matter of fact, he'd probably be doing more and more for his community than anybody around him. But because of this, it makes him a problem in his community, right? It makes me a problem in my community. I'm not going to kill anybody. I don't know why. I guess I feel like I have to. The society we live in, I must keep saying it. I must keep saying it, even though it's like, even though people know that I'm not going to do. People think it's dumb. It's dumb. The optics on it will always go against us, because our enemies have they've cornered the market on violence and deceit. So if you want to try and beat them with violence or deceit, you're going to lose, because they're masters at those things. They got the most advanced technology, the best lies. They've been practicing for so long. They've got regular people out in the community lying to everybody. We've got to beat it with peace and truth. Intelligence, peace, and truth. It's like a counterintuitive thing. And I think, I guess it can't be I don't know. It's hard for it to be a learning experience at this point. I'm still just kind of in shock. I don't know, man. I had people like telling me to just get over it, like yesterday. They were trying to be nice and help me, but I was a little bit like kind of taken aback. I was like, it's the day after, like, and they were acting like I was just holding on to it or something. And I was like, this is the day after it happened. Are we trying to, like, when anything bad happens, is that because so many bad things are happening, are people just like, oh no, I don't know what's going on. I just had a couple of people say that. A couple of people yesterday. But that's a normal thing, I think. When somebody that, I'm friends with him. I'm still friends with him. I hate what he did. It's evil, what he did. But the reason why I'm still friends with him, because I know what he was going through when he did it. And I know that he didn't just think those people were being too loud and he wanted to go get revenge, so he killed. That's insane. And Arachnonixon's not insane. He thought those people were hitting him with microwaves, and he wanted to stop. And for that reason alone of why he did that, I'm still friends with him. What he did was horrible and it was stupid, but it wasn't just like he knew those people had nothing to do with anything and he was still going to go and kill them. No, he thought they were directly involved with his torture and what was destroying his life, and felt like it was probably killing him, and may have killed him in a couple of days or something like that. But it was really coming from remote attacks, which they were making him sense and feel and think that it was coming from them, making him hear noises and voices from them moving along the wall. It's happened to me in my protocols. So I can listen to him say they're mimicking me, and I can say that, yeah, they did that to me, And so, we need to send him some motivation and stuff like that. And the situation needs to be talked about no matter how complicated. And it's complicated if everybody just accepted how complicated it is, right? Like the public and us, and we all knew they were directed energy weapons. What really happened? What was going on with him? What was going on with it? Even if everybody knew all the protocols and everything, it would still be complicated to figure out, right? Because society completely says this doesn't even exist, or it's an unknown. It's an unknown unknown, right? To society, basically. Then everything is wrong. And this guy, and then William is just a crazy, mentally ill person. How many years of torture did he go through and fight through? You know. And I'm just, I guess I just got to make it clear, I'm not defending his actions at all. Never do this. Never do this. We're so close. It hurts all of us, right? It hurts all of us that are trying to get through this. The optics on it are so bad. It does not matter. Even me sitting here and saying he was definitely going through massive torture, and definitely his contract attackers that were remotely attacking him were definitely making him know that it was his neighbors when it wasn't. And that is a dangerous thing because we see it played out. And 2 innocent people are dead, and one young man who was innocent, is he still innocent if he did it because he thought they were murdering him, and these technologies are so advanced? I'm not going to get into that. I'm not condoning. But I do think this. I just do think this factually because of how the court of law works, that he should have a defense built on him being hit by those weapons, and it should be a lot stronger than a temporary insanity plea. A lot stronger than that, So let's watch this. I think we watched this the last time, but just let me think if I have anything else I want to say about it.
Thanks for joining us tonight. Authorities say that a Kalamazoo County man accused of the ambush murder of his neighbors shot and killed that couple over a noise complaint. The News Channel 3 I-team uncovers new court documents today that outline a possible motive in those double murders. Our investigative reporter, Mike Kravsik, joins us live from the Galesburg Village Apartments, the scene of the crime, Mike, to tell us why the suspect himself called 911.
Yeah, Andy, these court documents reveal that the suspect told investigators his next-door neighbor on the second-floor apartment complex were keeping him up when early Thursday morning. He told deputies he knocked on their door and shot and killed them before calling 911 to confess.
So he told investigators that they were just making noise. The thing that I don't know, because I don't know if maybe because he did what he did and he saw there were no weapons, and then when he talked to the investigators, he may have not. I doubt it. I doubt that he didn't mention anything about being tortured by directed energy weapons. He said it on the way long ago when he's coming to the live streams. He said it a lot. So I just think they do not say anything about that, and they say everything about the regular harassment that can sound normal, and then anything about directed energy weapons or anything like that, they put that into a category of this is schizophrenia and stuff like that. So we're not even going to mention that because the public won't even understand that reference because it's so Looney Tunes, right? When we have agents and military workers getting monetary help and medical help for directed energy weapon attacks.
Kalamazoo County deputies say 31-year-old William Robert Wolf gunned down the couple the moment they opened their door to their apartment early Thursday morning.
They were really quiet, really nice, never had a problem, but they were always willing to say hi and all of that in passing.
Detectives say Wolf shot the walkers because they prevented him from sleeping by being...
And the sheriff's department would come and tell anybody. They see, even if the walkers were not gang stalkers or anything like that, or noise campaign people that they put in there, even if they were none of that, the sheriff's department would have known William's status as a targeted individual. They would have known. And now at this point, I would say 100% they would have known that he was being surveilled and hit by microwave weapons. Before all the big stuff that happened, I'd say the sheriff's department, maybe some of them are clueless and they just think that this person's being watched, like neighbor. But the way that they vehicular stalk with DHS fusion centers, they know. They know that this guy was being tortured in his home. Nobody spoke up. Like nobody said, look, this guy, because that's the point of it. You see, I say nobody spoke up when this guy who was being tortured, who they knew was being surveilled and tortured and put on a watch list, right? Nobody spoke up when something horrible happened, right? But that's the point of it. That's the point of it, for these horrible things to happen, and then it ruins these lives, and then they're still going to target him in jail, and that's the point. And that's the sheriff's department, InfraGard, DHS fusion centers. They're terrorist organizations. They're worse than the Chinese Communist Party. Our authoritarian organizations are worse than the Chinese Communist Party. There's compartments within the police and things like that are good guys, that are good men, but the ones that are cooperating with DHS fusion center, they know that citizens are being microwaved and they're just keeping their mouths shut. They are terrorist organizations. Department of Homeland Security is covering up the torture being done to citizens just like William. So is DHS fusion centers protecting Americans when it's covering up what's happening to William, and then something horrible happens that took the lives of his two neighbors, and now he's sitting in jail forever? And DHS Fusion Center wanted to make sure that didn't stop. That William was still being microwaved and that a situation like that could occur. DHS Fusion Center, they're monsters, they're criminals, they're worse than the Chinese Communist Party, and I'd say they're way worse because the Chinese Communist Party lets its country know that it's tyrannical as F, and it's evil, right? It lets them know it's coming. DHS Fusion Center says, hey, we're heroes. We're here to protect Americans. You didn't protect any of these Americans. You covered up what was happening so these events could happen. DHS, Sheriff's Department, InfraGard, you're villains and your attackers, your enemies of this country. And William is a lot less of an enemy of this country. He made a mistake. He made a mistake. Who knows the remote neural manipulation in his head? Who knows the pain where he thought he was dying? And he needs a public defender to come in there and say what's happening, and it's way more than temporary insanity. It's the wrong move. I'm not condoning it. It's evil. It's evil to take the lives of two people. And even if you're sure, like even if they were hitting him with microwave weapons, right? There's a better way to just get away from him, to get a better victory over this program, because those two people may have had nothing to do with it, but this program sure did celebrate because of it, So.
Loud.
It's kind of shocking that he says that they were really loud because they pretty much kept to themselves.
Neighbors say Virgil Walker worked third shift and was likely coming home around the time he was killed. Deputies say Wolf shot the 49-year-old as soon as he answered a knock on his apartment door, then shot his 30-year-old wife.
You see, so immediately when Virgil opened the door, he shot him, and then he walked in, he shot Virgil's wife, Walker's, and I guarantee you at that point, he looked around that place for weapons, and he didn't find it. See, that's why I say it's not your neighbors. Don't mess with them. Like this is, I tell you all about. They wouldn't need to do that, but they sure can. They sure can make you feel like it's your neighbors, right? So I had to kind of like on some of the things that I was perceiving, like, oh man, that feels like it's coming right. Like, and I've gone through those things on my videos. You know what I'm saying?
Haley Walker multiple times.
That was shocking to me.
Deputies say Wolf then went back to his apartment to say goodbye to his cat before driving off. Jennifer Newman says her mother saw Wolf leaving the complex.
She had apparently parked next to him and said that he pulled out and drove off like nothing ever happened.
According to court documents, Wolf stopped at a nearby nursing home up the street and called 911 to confess. Neighbors say Wolf and the Walkers had lived at the Galesburg Village apartments for several weeks.
I don't know how anything could have gone so wrong in just a couple months.
I do. Remote microwave attacks. American citizens being tortured and experimented on, their brains being experimented on by remote microwaves. And then, to add the cherry on top, the protocols that the remote attackers use is to make sure that the person experiencing the blistering hot pain of when they don't know when their brain will pop or their heart will pop, they make sure that they know that it's their neighbors when it's not. Because the senses pick that up, the angles and everything, the directional feel of the high-pitched sound and the hits to the body. They make sure that it's coming from and they make sure that even if the neighbors aren't going to do a noise campaign when they don't have weapons to make the person attack think that it's them with weapon, that they can V2K and just make up those noises, right? How complicated can it get to create these murder scenarios, you know? And that's why no one believes them. They make it complicated enough, and then it's just like, well, we got to do something here. This is a massacre. Well, William's mentally ill, because that's all we're equipped for. That's all society is equipped for. Oh no, the military-industrial complex come up with all these great technologies to murder people in their homes and torture them and turn their minds inside and out. But society ain't equipped to know about those because we ain't telling them. And we're going to go ahead and the people that are being tortured, those will be the default people to take the brunt of any kind of punishment if anything happens that's a bad situation, right? So we're gonna do that, where it's like torture, terrorism, and then we're gonna torture you and terrorize you for being tortured and being terrorized, and then we're gonna torture you and terrorize you for being tortured and terrorized that you're tortured and terrorized, and then you're a little bit too tortured and terrorized for being tortured and terrorized for being tortured and terrorized. So we're gonna go ahead and throw you in jail, or call you mentally ill or whatever, and the thing is, it's like if we look at a regular system, yes, William deserves to go to jail. If we look at a system without 24-hour-a-day remote microwave torture, right? And remote neural manipulation that can change somebody's state of mind, make them feel more violent, change their perceptions, make them feel desperate, like they're going to die, right? With the brutal microwave torture to the body, right? I forgot my point on that one. System needs to include that. If we're not including that, then yeah, William deserves to go and rot in jail, right? If there was none of that happening in this, but they give people temporary insanity for stupid things when he was going through something real and he was being tricked, and not an easy trick, not a trick that's like, oh, you're a dum-dum if you don't realize it. Something that really makes you think 100% that your neighbors are hitting you because it feels like that. Because your brain feels that, your body feels that, your perception feels that, you're hearing things. Even if they, could have hired the walkers to do noise campaigns, thinking it's just harassment, thinking there are no microwaves involved, while they hit them with directional microwaves to solidify Arachnonixon's belief that his neighbors were hitting him. In those circumstances, he needs to go free. In those circumstances, he, at the very least, needs to be put into a mental facility and not go to jail. And there needs to be lawyers to argue this, right? Now, the problem is that in court, anything about directed energy weapons or anything else, right? Anything like that, these programs, national security, and it cannot be spoken of in court, right? So none of that can be entered in. Anything he said to the policeman, nor in any of the circumstances where any of these people who were mixed up in violent, violent incidents, who were targeted. Nothing they said about it. You could dig and you could find things that are like, oh, that sounds like targeting, but none of it's going to be entered into court because it's national security and they want to cover up these things that are causing these horrific, violent false flags. And this is a false flag. People die in false flags. They used William for this false flag, and that should come out in court. I don't know what I can do about it, but I would guarantee you that his lawyer is if not inept, a public defender who's not going to bring anything up because he didn't even try and get him bond. He's definitely not going to try and go out of his way or anything like that, or try and understand anything about directed energy weapons or anything for his client, right? Because it's probably he's just going through the motions. This is just another mentally ill kid that shot some people, right? Our system is not equipped for anything to keep us safe. It's only equipped for terrorism to hurt innocent people. That's the only thing it's equipped to deal with. When you try and fix something, when you try and save an innocent life from something like these programs or anything, it's not equipped. Now, I don't understand that. I don't understand what you're talking about. It's advanced, and that's what they want. That's what they want. They want an unequipped system so that when these things happen, it just looks like a mentally ill kid, right? Just looks natural, right? When the California fires burn that forest burned down, just a natural. It gets really hot over there. When hurricanes line up 3 in a row, line up to where it's like the eyes of the storm are just like parallel. Magic. It's magic. And that's what they want for the entire future of humanity, is for them to play God to us and do things like this, and then we all just say, well, that was God, right? So they want to replace God. So God does natural things like lightning strikes and stuff like that. And they want to do these things with technology, directed energy, where they can play God and they can be like, yep, we did that, but it's natural because we're God now, right? And that is completely blasphemous, and God will strike them with lightning, with real lightning, not artificial lightning created by directed energy. I'm just trying to think of anything else. I kind of wanted to get everything out tonight, just to get it out. Talking about this, it's very brutal for me, y'all know, and it's just the initial thing. I'm not like, oh my God, I did this. I am a little bit worried that it's like, if I talk about it, that, I might get some knocks on my door, and then people would be like, oh, he came to your targeted individual channel, and that's where he learned about this stuff, but I don't care. I don't care because y'all know what I preach on this channel. I do preach sometimes, but y'all know what I say, right? I say we don't do this stuff. I've gone through this stuff. I wanted to say that I went through that scenario not with a weapon, but kicking in a door. And I think I was like, I think it was like 2012, and I just watched Watchmen or something like that. And I love Rorschach, right? And he kicks in the door, or at the beginning, somebody kicks in a door or something like that. And I was thinking about Rorschach, how he never compromises. I remember the whole scenario, and I was like, they're hitting me with weapons. I shouldn't compromise with evil. I went to the sheriff's department a bunch of times, called the sheriff there, I think like 10 times, and they told me they would arrest me if I kept calling. I did the same thing at the house that burned down. But I decided against it. I remember it was one night really heavy. One night it was really heavy, and I had a fantasy about kicking in the door and just grabbing the equipment. And if they attacked me in there, I would just run out the door with the equipment, and I knew where the sheriff's department. I was going to bring it to the sheriff's department, but none of it had anything to do with weapons in it. But that's how. But I want to say those things. And that's not, at this point, activism's going to do it, guys. And more than activism, we need to come up with really risky ideas, right? But that have no violence in them, that look what's the word? The optics on this are so bad. They're bad for targeted individuals. Targeted individuals that see this are scared. Normal people that see this are scared. Targeted individuals that see this don't understand why he would do something like this. Normal people don't understand. Some targeted individuals are like, oh God, he felt like he was dying. Some targeted, no, I'm not going to go into that. I just need to get some more stuff off my chest about this, and we need to help him. So I'm going to put that up on the screen one more time. The Kalamazoo County Jail, 1500 Lamont Avenue, Kalamazoo, Michigan, 49007. And Badger's very right. We don't want to turn him into a martyr. I wouldn't write him a bunch of letters saying, oh, great, you got your people. He didn't, because if he did get his people, there would have been equipment in there. He would have gotten his hands on it. And then he would have been talking to the authorities. There would have been a little bit more to this. Like, they would have tried to probably hide it or something like that, but I guess anybody can say, like, well, with the conspiracy, blah, but like with common sense, he got the wrong people. He may have gotten people that were noise campaigning while his remote attackers were microwaving him and making it feel like it was coming from them, right? And that's why gang stalkers should never ever do gang stalking or noise campaigns, because they have no effing clue what's being done to the person being tortured to death, and where, in the mind control and stuff like that. But I hope Arachnonixon's doing okay in there. That's just so awful that he's in there. There should be a defense for this. I'm not saying what he did was right or not evil. It is evil. It's still evil. It's still evil. Killing 2 innocent people is evil. But this whole scenario of, like, you really feel like that in his head they weren't evil. In his head, they were evil. And it wasn't mental illness. It wasn't schizophrenia. It was he was being hit with microwave weapons. They may have been participating, or they may have been made to look like they were participating by the psyops and the advanced technology that were remote neural manipulating and torturing and that's part of this. That's part of this incident right here, and it needs to be talked about. If it has to be talked about by small YouTube channels until somebody enters this into court someday on all it, because it I don't know. Like, I want to say there's going to be less and less of these situations, right? But I don't know. I don't feel that way. I feel like there's going to be a lot more of these situations, and people are going to know less and less about what's happening, right? So wherever we can, we have to tell the truth and talk about it. Because, I mean, what I said, they want to make things look natural, and they play God, right? So they're just they want to take the place of God and be like, well, it's this crazy kid, because we were God, and we made him look crazy. We tortured him, we made him kill those innocent people, And it stays like that to society, because then it has to be protected by national security for the military-industrial complex to completely torture, map people's brains, make them, act out. They knew his team, his contracting team that was remote neural manipulating him and torturing him and trying to make him think that the neighbors were doing it to him, knew he had firearms. Who's an idiot here? Who's the idiot? But hey, they're in the shadows. That's the guy just said, we're in the shadows. Dude, my dude on V2K just goes, we're in the shadows. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. They're in the shadows. Nobody's looking at them. They're just looking at the 2 innocent victims and the innocent young man who was very, very innocent before all this torture. He was very, very innocent through this torture until that morning. And then there's some complications with that. I just have to say it. Maybe everybody wants to hear me, judge him and be like, well, he's going to go to hell because he killed 2 innocent people. There's complications with being tortured and thinking some people are killing you, and then saying, I don't know if I'm going to last another night, and taking the law into your own hands. There's some complications there. where it doesn't necessarily, it makes William not evil. Wrong, he did the wrong thing, an evil act, yes, but his state of mind, what he was going through, we need to be very cognizant of that. And you know, and I don't care if it's like, oh, if I connect myself to this, I'll get in trouble or whatever. Bring it on. They need to just bring it on. We're at such a point where these kind of, I know there's some targeted individuals that are like, you shouldn't even talk about these things. It's going to give us a bad name. This is a point in time where we need to talk about this stuff. We need to talk about the big stuff, and we need to talk about it all. We need to talk about all of it, all the good, the bad, and the ugly about this stuff happening. And that's the way it's going to come out. Don't shy away. The truth doesn't shy away from stuff because we didn't do nothing wrong. Don't do anything wrong. This was wrong. This was wrong. Like I'm saying, there were complications to where he thought he was defending himself, but this was wrong. This was wrong, right? So we can do crazy stuff that's risky and that can get us some big, you know, maybe make some big moves that just has nothing to do with violence. And it might get us into trouble. And I think we need to be looking into that stuff, and we need to be doing that stuff in place of anybody who feels like doing anything like this. And I want anybody who has had that or has that thought in their head right now, they're like, my neighbors are doing it, if I could just get in there, and I'll just, you know, they'll have the equipment in there. Let's look at this situation, what happened, and when he got in there was no equipment. There was no technology because it was being done to him remotely. Okay, so we got to look at this situation and at least get something good out of it. I think that he would want that. I think the families of the Walkers would want that. I think they would want that up in heaven. Geez, you know, if they had nothing to do with this, they would want everything about this program to come out. Alright guys, I love y'all. I just wanted to get a couple more things out about it. Just a couple more things that were on my mind, you know. I think that's it. I think I kind of covered everything. And we'll just pray. We pray for the Walker family, and pray for Arachnonixon, and pray for you know, Arachnonixon's family too. And then I guess we'll wait for updates. We'll wait for updates, but I doubt that his mom has a bunch of money and they're just gonna do the court appointed attorney. I'm sure it's just like, I don't know. I hope has some way to fight or to tell his lawyer this, but I don't think any of it's admissible. You know, we're working and fighting right now, like all targeted individuals all over the world, people experiencing this are fighting so that this will be admissible publicly in the court of law, right? So if something like this happens, they're gonna take anything you say about that out. It's gonna be covered up. I thought that we talked about this kind of stuff, but you know, even if we talk about it, things like this can still happen because they're brutal situations where it's like, I don't know what's going on with everybody, and I wish I could fix all your situations, but try and stay level-headed, and if you need to do something big, make sure you do something big that's not violent, like move out of your state, move onto the street. Like, that's a horrible thing, and I know that we can't just easily do things like that, and how dare I say that, but you know what I mean. Do something big, a big change in your life, that ain't gonna hurt anybody, because his attackers were so happy when he did this. They won. They killed those innocent people and they destroyed his life, right? I can't believe that these contractors are allowed to do that, allowed to just let that happen, and they did. And Myron May's attackers allowed it to happen, and the Navy Yard shooters attackers allowed it to happen, and anybody else who's done violence as a targeted individual, their attackers didn't just allow it to happen, they caused it to happen. It's still unbelievable for me, but that's the deal. Alright guys, that's all I can think of right now. If I have anything like just small that I want to add, maybe I'll make a video. I hope everybody's doing okay. It's about like 2:50 a.m. Right now. Father's Day is tomorrow, but I don't think my dad's going to be in town. I've got to call him. I may go over to my aunt's. You know, like my remote neural manipulation is just making it like they're just, you know, it's just making it so hard to think, and it's making me real tired. And then of course the V2K is going. But I've been listening, when I listen to Dave Case's CD, whenever I'm in emergency mode, I just put Dave Case's CD on and then the less EMF headgear, and I kind of just try and play video games. But it's getting, I want to do more, right? I want to do more, especially because of this, but just I want it to do more anyway. And I'm getting so tired of this. I want us to get up to a new level here. I got a couple of things I want to go through, like the legislation and then Susan Collins' letter and stuff like that. The cover of the New Yorker, there's going to be something about directed energy. So I don't see how they can bring this mainstream without bringing us mainstream, but I guess they can. You know, I guess there's no precedent for anything, and the lies are so stacked up. And are they going to let go of this? Are they going to let go of all the innocent people and lives they can destroy? You know, it's just, I'm telling you, if maybe we did some stuff like got with a country that wants to know about how Americans experiment on its own citizens, and they're not allies with America, we could sure cause some crap with that, because America's trying to say that Russia's doing all the microwave attacks, right? If some American citizens, maybe 1,000, went over to Russia and got with their intelligence teams, said, "Look, you can report it. We're American victims. That America will not take our reports. Will not tell anyone what we have experienced." So we came to Russia. Like it's pretty shitty. You know what I'm saying? Like the America could go, "Oh, we target. You see, they're treasonous." But in reality, what's going on? It's right. You see what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to compare to this other situation. That was not the right thing to do. But it is a complicated situation where it's like, if nobody dies, but people are calling us treasonous, it's a risk. It's kind of big, but it could change things for us. And the United States might stop attacking us if we go over to Russia. Maybe we get housing, money, medical care. We live in Russia for the rest of our lives. We speak out. We tell them what America's been doing. That's just one idea. That's just one idea that I thought of today. What do you guys think of that? Move to Russia, get them to help us, because America's not helping us, does not care about us. We just let Russia use it against America, because America's already using all the microwave stuff against Russia. And I don't feel like a traitor doing that. These microwave attackers are traitors. They're traitors. These programs are traitors. Pretty much our government are traitorous, and the military-industrial complex is definitely traitors. Terrorists. You know, trying to establish full spectrum dominance on the entire population of their country, you know, because they've gone so insane. All right, guys, I love y'all. I'll see y'all in the next one. We need to think of some ideas, because I know we're all getting, like, you know, desperate, but never let it come to anything like this. You know, never let it come to anything like this. All right, guys, I'll see y'all in the next one. And please send letters of encouragement to Arachnonixon and maybe some food or something. You know, he's still my friend. I don't condone what he did. I think what he did is still evil, with a lot of complications, where it's like I have a hard time judging the state he was in and what he was experiencing. But he's still my friend, right? And he's still somebody he's still going through this targeting in jail. You know, so we should help him out, and let him, yeah, and like Brock was saying, let him know that his life's not over. You know, his life's not over. All right, guys, I love y'all. I'll see y'all in the next one.